Welcome to Arlington Public News. I'm James Milan.
And I'm Paul Werlin. Thanks for joining us. In this edition of APN, meet the candidates running in April's selectman's race and tour the in and outs of Arlington High School.
And AHS students join voices from across the country in saying no more. That and more up next. Stay with us.
Arlington school spending, both in the future Arlington High School building and in the next year, is the focus of this week's snapshot. Hi, Brenda. It's not easy coming up with spending priorities in schools these days, is it?
No, it isn't. Thanks, Paul. The new Arlington High School is getting closer to having a structured rebuilding plan. The school committee voted in favor of a framework addressing the educational and space needs of the high school. One area, though, still up for debate is the size of the gymnasium. The Massachusetts School Building Authority will subsidize up to 16,000 square feet of gym space. High school principal Matthew Janger told the school committee that's enough room for a jogging track and to allow 2 PE classes at the same time. It would also be the one space large enough to accommodate all school assemblies. School committee member Kirstie Allison Ampey said she would rather see a smaller gym and apply the state reimbursed square footage left over to a larger field house. The rest of the money would then have to come from the town for that field house. Ampey says it would better accommodate the 30-plus extracurricular athletics folks have come to expect.
To be honest, that specific configuration question is one we don't actually have to decide right now. What we'd be still asking for is a 16,000 square foot gym. If in the future we decide to take that same square footage and reconfigure it, that's not really going to affect the MSBA's decisions around what we have.
No matter whether the MSBA cares or not, I think it's something our town will care about. I think it's something our community will care about. It's something our parents and our students will care about. And that if we're making significant changes to our athletic programming because we cannot provide the needed facilities, then I think we need to be doing it knowingly. I think we need to be considering a field house. It could meet more of our athletic needs, our PE needs as we get into a school with 2,000 and more students.
The school committee and AHS building committee will continue seeking input on the high school's design. We have more on how you can have your say and a tour of the current high school in just a bit in our newscast. In other school news, the school committee approved the superintendent's proposed budget for next year. The school department asked the town for an 8% increase in its funding appropriation over last year for a total of $65.8 million. The biggest increase coming from opening up the Gibbs for 6th graders to accommodate growing enrollment in the town. And the funding would also go towards additional specialists. And for the first time, full-time kindergarten teaching assistants, something parents and teachers had been asking for as kindergarten classes have increased in size to as many as 25 students. Right now, teaching assistants only work halfway through the school day. All changes would go into effect next year. The budget is expected to be finalized by town meeting in April. Well, the town is still working on cleaning up from the multiple nor'easters we've had. The Department of Public Works says they are systematically getting to all the downed limbs and branches, but it will take at least a few more weeks. Tree workers are clearing hanging limbs and any hazardous downed trees first, then moving on to clearing branches from town trees left curbside. DPW Director Mike Rademacher says this is the worst tree damage he's seen in 10 years, mostly because it's so widespread. Hundreds of limbs and branches came down after the first and second nor'easters blew strong winds through the town in early March. And if you're wondering when the fields may be open for the spring and throughout the town, well, Rademacher says, do stay tuned. With snow still melting, he can't pin down a date just yet. Well, that's it for this week's Snapshot. Back to you, Paul.
Thanks, Brenda. We're going to stick with schools in our next story. The March Arlington High School Rebuild Community Forum gave attendees the opportunity to get a first-hand look at the current building conditions and space limitations. The school complex is a warren of 5 buildings spreading out from the original 1914 structure. APN went along on a tour led by Assistant Principal William McCarthy and brings you these highlights.
And we're going to go upstairs and look at some classrooms. We're going to come back down here to Old Hall at the end of our tour, so we'll do a giant loop. During one of the renovations, they moved all the walls, and now we have pillars in the middle of the room. If you go up to the 5th floor, we have 3 classrooms with pillars, and 2 that have actually been cut in half into triangles. So no matter what you do, you're always going to end up with someone behind a pillar who can't see the whole classroom. And as I said, there's quite a few rooms that have these pillars. So it's really a nightmare when you're trying to teach. So we're going to head this way, and we're actually going to go downstairs to what's called the pit. And so the pit is the original gymnasium. It's actually a dirt floor underneath. And we still do use this space because we have very limited space for people to work together in classroom settings. When it rains, it's a nice place for the preschool to come in, lab, but it is used by everybody in the building. It's one of the few breakout spaces we actually have. If you want to go from the 5th floor of Fusco House and you want to get to the 3rd floor of Downs House, you have to go all the way around the building in order to make that loop. So, for instance, if you wanted to go from your history to your math class, that's a 10 to 15 minute trek. So this is the elevator here. This is the only elevator that works the entire building. It is not big enough for much. I would say 4 or 5 of us could fit in there. After that, it'd be pretty cramped. This is a great space. Well, this is where they build all the sets for the musicals. This is where the engineering class builds things. Lately, we've had kids coming down working on sensory projects. They get trained on the equipment. It's outstanding. There's one problem with this. It's in the basement of the building, completely isolated. Down there, it's the lovely river, if anyone actually sees it. There's the sub pumps that just keep filling and emptying, filling and emptying. I like to make fun of that because it actually looks like a river over there. The cafeteria itself houses about 400 to 425 students during lunch. Here's some basic math. We have seating for 375. So this space really isn't designed for that. We've had to find other means. In other words, there are classrooms where students will have lunch. We're going to sneak into the auditorium. All right, if you take a look around, you can tell there's really no handicap access. When we get a new building, the new auditorium would actually be larger, but would have fewer seats, 770. When you actually measured the seats, which we had to do earlier this year, we found out they're all different sizes. So as you go from the center over to the right, the seats actually get skinnier. Really? Wow. And so we're entering now the media center, our learning commons. You'll notice there's a bunch of offices. Once again, because of the need of space, we've cut up the media center in order to accommodate offices and classrooms. You can tell at one point it actually ran from where we entered all the way down here to another stairwell. Now this is really the main part of the media center. You get a sense we have classrooms that come in and use this space as well as this space over here to get access to the computers. All right, so this is the standard size of a science classroom. Once again, this one is about, I want to say 975 square feet. The average size, according to MSBA, should be about 1,400 square feet. So when you look at this, this is not just the classroom space, this is also their workspace when they do their labs. And I can't emphasize enough just how amazing this place is. And the staff, though the space drives us nuts, we all work together, we work really hard. We love working with each other, we love working with the students, and I think it shows in the day-to-day process. We all work together to make it work, and that's the important part.
Tours were followed by a presentation of current school building design trends. The next AHS Building Project Community Forum will take place on April 4th from 7 to 9 p.m. in the Town Hall Auditorium. At this meeting, AHS Principal Matthew Janger and architects will share information on how the future programming needs will impact proposed spaces. Several preliminary designs for the renovations or rebuilding of the high school will be presented, and the site selection process will be discussed. A final community forum will be held on Monday, June 4th to discuss updated design options. You can learn more about the project at ahsbuilding.org.
Arlington High School students joined thousands of other young people across the nation when they walked out of school to take a stand against gun violence. The national walkout marked 1 month since the school shooting in Parkland, Florida.
We are making our voices heard, even though many of us cannot vote. Together, we can make our schools, our community, and our country safer.
The walkout lasted 17 minutes to honor the 17 victims of the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Many of the students expressed how commonplace these events have become for those of their generation.
We don't remember a time before practicing lockdowns became a necessity, because even as we've grown and learned and changed, the story has remained the same. Someone gets angry. They buy a gun. They buy ammunition. They shoot the gun, and people die.
Students at Arlington Catholic High School held a prayer vigil, and Ottoson Middle School students also held a walkout. Although different student bodies chose different ways to express themselves, the message from each was the same. We want to be heard, and we want change.
We are here, we are strong, and we are ready to be taken seriously and not be pushed aside because we're too young.
Arlington students and residents joined thousands of others calling for change during the March for Our Lives rally on Boston Common last weekend. Another national student walkout is being organized for April 20th, which is the anniversary of the Columbine school shooting. That was in 1999 when 2 shooters killed 12 students and 1 teacher at their school in Littleton, Colorado.
Student walkouts and the March for Our Lives are keeping the national debate over gun control front and center. Advocates are pushing for new laws on both the federal and state level, and some of the key issues include banning assault weapons and bump stocks, raising the minimum age to purchase a firearm, and improving background checks. Gun control laws vary widely from state to state and between the states and the federal government. So how do Massachusetts laws compare? The Commonwealth has some of the strictest gun control laws in the country. APN reporter Hannah Schuster gives us this breakdown.
A federal assault weapons ban passed in 1994 expired in 2004 due to a sunset provision attached to the bill. Massachusetts passed its own law in 1998 and is now one of 7 states plus the District of Columbia with an assault weapons ban. These policies, however, can run into the challenge of defining an assault weapon. Generally, the laws ban a list of firearms by name and use a 1 or 2 feature test to ban weapons that have certain characteristics. Massachusetts also bans high-capacity magazines and was the first state to issue a ban on bump stocks after one was used in the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting. Both are legal under federal law. Massachusetts closes what is known as the gun show loophole for background checks. U.S. law requires background checks for purchases made through licensed firearm dealers, but not private sellers. Some state laws require universal background checks for private sales, but alternatively, Massachusetts is one of several states that require purchasers to obtain a permit before buying a gun, which includes a background check. Massachusetts also gives authorities some of the widest discretion in issuing concealed carry permits. Under federal law, the minimum age to buy a handgun from a licensed seller is 21, and the minimum age to buy a long gun, rifles, and shotguns is 18, though the rules are less strict for unlicensed sellers. The age limits are the same in Massachusetts, but with parental permission, it is legal to possess a long gun at age 15. There are state and federal laws barring high-risk individuals from purchasing guns, including anyone convicted of a violent crime or with a history of substance abuse. 5 states also have red flag laws, which allow law enforcement or family members to seek a court order to confiscate weapons from someone who is a threat to themselves or others. There is a bill in the Massachusetts legislature that would institute this kind of law. The Giffords Law Center creates an annual scorecard of state gun laws. It gave Massachusetts an A- in 2017 and ranked its gun laws the 4th strongest in the U.S. That year, Massachusetts had the fewest gun deaths per capita in the country, 3.4 per 100,000 people. Mississippi gun laws are ranked the weakest in the country. In 2017, it earned an F from the center and had the 4th most gun deaths per capita, 19.8 per 100,000 people.
You know, Paul, watching those students at the March for Our Lives, it's amazing how articulate, impressive they are, you know? And Obviously, voter registration is going to be a big part of what their plans are and the plans are. Let's see if things translate into votes.
Let's hope so. You know, some of those kids will be able to vote in 2 years in the next national presidential election. So let's see what happens.
They've earned the right, that's for sure.
They have. And when we come back, turning empty spaces into artist spaces.
And running right into the history books. Stay tuned.
When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke.
I'm Paul George, and I want you to spot a stroke fast.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911.
Protect the ones you love.
Spot a stroke fast.
On April 7th, Arlington residents will go to the polls in townwide elections. Voters will find candidates for selectman, assessor, school committee, and town meeting member seats. 3 candidates are vying for 2 seats on the Board of Selectmen. They are incumbent Joseph Curo, A. Michael Ruderman, and John V. Hurd. We invited the candidates to our studio for a 1-hour debate on the issues facing the board. And here is an excerpt from that debate. Aside from the numerous issues that pertain to Arlington schools, what is the most pressing challenge facing the town in the next few years, and how do you see your own role in addressing it?
What I see as the most pressing issue to Arlington in the next 2 years, 5, 10 years, will be figuring out how we can hold everything together. And by that I mean all the interests, all the needs, all of the competing claims on the budget, all of the different wants and desires. Some people have said that a budget reflects philosophy. It reflects what you value. But there's never enough room for everything. We're going to have to make some hard decisions as we go forward because there will never be enough money for every wish. Now, if we want to try to grow the commercial tax base by allowing higher, denser, steeper building on every available lot, we're going to have concerns from the neighbors who are suddenly looking up at shadows where there never were. Tall walls dominating where there used to be a vista. If we continue to push the answer of greater development as increasing the tax base as one way to get out of our budget problems, we're going to have issues over parking, access to transportation.
And Mr. Curo, you're first with rebuttal.
First with rebuttal. Thank you. Well, I would say overall, I would agree that keeping us together as far as our fiscal stability plan, and I know you said other than the schools, but really our fiscal stability plan is about the entire town. It's about the schools, it's about community safety, it's about public works, it's about our social safety net and our health and human services. We've had very qualified financial management in this town. We've been blessed with that. That's why we have a AAA bond rating. We've managed to stretch our fiscal stability plan, which was originally planned for 3 years, to almost triple that, almost 9. But we are going to have to go back to the voters, and we're going to have to be very careful when we go back to the voters because for some folks in Arlington, affordability is becoming an issue. Affordability of housing, affordability, quite frankly, of taxes, which is why I fought at town meeting for tax relief measures for our seniors and our veterans, and I've, at my request, the town manager will be placing additional articles around tax deferrals on the special town meeting warrant coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hurd.
I agree that fiscal stability, other than the schools, is the major issue that's coming up. I'm a real estate lawyer. I do closings on a daily basis that I get a chance to welcome new residents into the town. And I have residents that new buyers that come in because of the amazing services that the town offers. So it's incumbent upon us, it's a difficult decision, but based on our financial situation, we also have to understand that people come into town who enjoy the services and new people that buy property here for the services are going to expect those services to continue. So we have some hard decisions, and I do understand that as a lifelong resident that property values and housing costs can be very difficult for residents that have been here for a while.
You can watch the entire debate at acmi.tv or check your local cable schedule. In addition to the debate, ACMi has recorded candidate profiles for both Board of Selectmen and School Committee that are also available to view at ACMi or on your local cable channel. And don't forget to vote on Saturday, April 7th. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you're not sure where to vote, visit the Voting and Elections page at arlingtonma.gov or call 781-316-3070.
Following on the heels of the town election comes town meeting beginning on Monday, April 23rd. On Thursday, April 12th, you can learn about the issues going before town meeting. The event is sponsored by Vision 2020. There will be an overview of the warrant and the articles and a brief budget presentation from Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine. Then attendees will break out into discussion groups with town meeting members. The meeting takes place in the Town Hall Auditorium from 7 to 9 p.m. You know, James, this is the first time in a while there's been a contested seat on the Board of Selectmen in town.
Yeah, and we're going to have a new face there and another one on the school committee. So it's going to be interesting.
Very interesting.
When we come back, how artists are bringing empty storefronts to life.
And the Spy Ponders wrap up their winter sports season. We'll be right back.
What if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
In October of 2016, a special town meeting addressed regulations requiring commercial and industrial property owners to register and maintain their vacant buildings. Now those vacant storefronts are becoming artists' canvas. APN reporter Sebastian Gonzalez-Johnson brings us the story.
Empty storefronts are an unwelcoming sight on any street. As part of the effort to revive retail centers and support local artists, the Arlington Commission on Art and Culture is working with the town on the Art and Windows project. The project will allow artists to display their work in these vacant spaces through pop-up style storefront installations.
The goal of it is to install art into storefronts, not only in the center, but in the Arlington Cultural District, which actually extends to East Arlington. It can be anywhere in town, really, but just to liven up the storefronts in town and give artists opportunities for exhibit space they may not have otherwise had. As we were putting out a call for artists to do that, we thought, why don't we make other storefronts available, not just the vacant ones, because it makes the town pretty, it makes the space beautiful, and existing business owners were interested in it too. So we thought it was an easy decision.
The Music Studios of Arlington has stepped forward to welcome the first art installation. Creating enticing display space is nothing new for the business.
There was a store that was in the back of the building, and they were selling antiques, and they requested some space up front for display. So we built this, and then when they moved out of the building, we were sort of left with this window that didn't really have a use or a function or form for our business, which is renting music rooms. For my business, I mean, it beautifies the space, and I'd say for the artists, it's a pretty visible spot. So it's kind of win-win for somebody looking to do something cool in a visible spot. Physically, it's right on the intersection, so it's at a red light. It's really bright at night, so anybody that drives by can see it.
Artists are invited to submit proposals for the chance to display their work as one of 6 exhibits that will be featured in 2018 and 2019. 2 of the 6 exhibits will feature the work of Arlington High School students. To kick off the project, Arlington High School senior Mary Rayboy installed her recycled art piece at the music studio this past week. For Mary, the project is more than just displaying her work. It's about building community.
Essentially, this stems from the Unity Project, which happened at Arlington High School, and the project was based about our community and the student body coming together to support inclusion and similarities that we shared. And I wanted to take that idea and expand it into my own artwork and recycle the yarn myself. And this piece is specified towards mental health awareness and the idea that the youth really struggles with that strongly. And I really wanted to pay attention to ways we could really hone in on the idea of just helping each other and creating a space where we communicated more.
Carter is working with commercial owners across Arlington's 3 main shopping districts: East Arlington, the Arlington Center, and the Heights. Most importantly, Carter is integrating both businesses and residents into the process. Look for installations popping up in storefronts up and down Mass Ave later this year. For Arlington Public News, I'm Sebastian Gonzalez-Johnson.
Interested artists can submit their proposals through Arlington Public Art or through the Arlington Cultural Council. The deadline for submissions is March 31st. Artists who are accepted will receive an honorary $200 stipend.
And before the ice turns to playing fields and the basketball court is replaced by the tennis court, here's a wrap-up of the Spy Ponders winter season from our sports team at Studio B.
Hello Arlington, I'm Kira Power and welcome to another edition of your Spy Ponders Sports Update. Don't be fooled by all of the snow, the spring sports season is right around the corner. But before you tear off your winter jackets, let's go over how our Ponders finished off their winter season. Boys hockey competed against Belmont in the Division I North quarterfinals. It was a hard-fought game, but Belmont was able to take the win in the final moments on the ice. Moving on to the court, boys basketball also competed in the quarterfinals for the Division II North tournament. They played Brighton in an action-packed game. The score stayed tied throughout most of the game, went into overtime, but unfortunately the Ponders could not come away with the win. In our last broadcast, we talked about indoor track star Ryan Oosting. Oosting moved on to race at Nationals with fellow racers Jeff Candle, Adam Aliunsi, and Roger Buckley. Although slated in the bottom third of the 32 teams, our Ponders finished 8th in the country. Oosting once again competed in the 2-mile and placed 2nd in the country. Congratulations are also in order for Coach Kevin Cummings and Senior Captain Abby Ewan. Coach Cummings, who started the AHS wrestling program and has led it for 22 seasons, was inducted into the Massachusetts State High School Wrestling Coaches Hall of Fame, while Abby Ewan was nominated for the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association Scholar Athlete Award, which is granted to a student athlete who demonstrates excellence in leadership, sportsmanship, academic, and athletic pursuits. Congratulations to all our Spy Ponders for a hard-fought winter season. Here at ACMi, we're excited to keep bringing you coverage as the snow begins to melt and we enter the spring sports season.
The spring sports season is just getting underway. Watch for ACMi coverage of girls and boys lacrosse, tennis, along with girls softball and boys volleyball during the spring season.
Thanks for joining us. You can check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Arlington Public.
And if you'd like to be part of Arlington Public News and ACMi, just email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by the studio here at 85 Park Ave. I'm James Milan.
And I'm Paul Werlin. We leave you tonight with some small clues from Mother Nature that spring really is on its way. See you next time.
Take care.